Crypto market is becoming more and more interesting. The news and narratives which we observe in the market is increasingly becoming bullish. Whether that's the fundamental side of it or the technical side of things, it is becoming bullish. Now, yes, the news, the narratives, the fundamentals, all of this matters and it kind of gives us a clear picture of where we are heading towards. But at the same time, we also look for what can slow us down. What of these factors will actually play a role in deviating from the mean? So the market cycle kind of shows you the short term, there is a pattern. You zoom out, you're like, okay, this is going to be a support zone. Now, if you want to see a cyclical perspective, so you are zooming out one by one, and then you're like, okay, we may have a support here, but we still may visit a lower level of support because on the monthly, we are observing that we still have now 30 days more. We just opened the May month as a candle. So the monthly candle here literally has 30 days and it's actually going to push us through. We will see volatility. We just got a daily close, a weekly close. We are literally looking for how things are evolving. Just 2 days back, we actually saw how the weekly closed. Great. So right now, we are watching the daily close coming into the market, the weekly close coming into the market, right? The monthly close entering the market. And it all shows us the exact same idea that the market seems to be more bullish in terms of the trend. So if we sit here and put that argument, asking ourselves the same question, are we going ahead or are we going to correct much lower than where we were? You'll have to keep this picture in mind. Bitcoin dominance breaking through this level will definitely show you that the market is going to run higher, right? And at the same time, the first priority is that, okay, Bitcoin is getting more money, which is entering into the market. But once that hits a local bottom, then we see how that moves on. So right now, Bitcoin is just about $27,000. Imagine this dropping towards the correction. Imagine this coming back to the support level, major support level, before it actually bounces off. That will now push more money into the altcoin markets. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where the normal retail guys get to learn how to become the next top 10% of this world. Right now, we are observing that the market tightening is still happening. Fed is thinking like, what should we do? Should we actually go do another 25 basis point and push more banks into failure? We know what's happening in the macro banking side of things. And when Bank of International Settlements gave this idea to all the other central banks, that does mean like, okay, there is something changing. We all know the fact that the market is actually moving into a direction where they are going to adopt our infrastructure for finance. Now we have infrastructure for information, which is the internet, the normal internet as we know. Right now, we're talking about the infrastructure for finance, money. That will most likely include XRP at one point, at one area. I'm not saying the entire thing will be running on this, but it will touch XRP ledger at one point, because the way we see the rate of adoption moving now, not in US, outside US, it is significant, because the way they are moving into Asia, especially Far East Asia, Middle East, you kind of see a lot of things happening. Then you come and look at this and it is like, okay, Coinbase is going to have a hard time if that's true inside the US. Remember, they actually went ahead delisting XRP back then. Now it is coming back to kick, right? So that does happen in the market. So that means if that's true, then they may actually have to move out of the country or restrict the way they provide services, which means like if that's moving ahead, people in US is going to have hard time. Now, Right now, when I share the optimistic view, it includes a drop in price action first. The best scenario to observe is the price actually coming back down to 24, 25,000, if not 21,000, because I personally think we are coming close to 21, 22 before we actually bounce off to a new high. One of the reasons why we talk about that is primarily because we have actually completed the three-wave structure on a macro, and usually after that completion we come back down here. Great. Now we've discussed about that previously, so we know that. One of the key part here is the monthly close. Right now the Bitcoin monthly closed in a bullish stance. So you're not actually dropping, you're actually still moving to the upside. That is actually a bullish stance to look at, because the way I'm looking at this, you are trending higher. On a monthly, yes, it is macro, yes, it's a monthly chart, you are trending higher. You actually have at least last 4-5 years of trend which is forming here. Now, the primary question would be, if that trend is valid, then what are you really thinking about? That's a rising channel as a trend line. We have seen this in different assets. So am I saying like, okay, this is going all the way up to like $170,000 to $200,000? Maybe, but I think the possibility would fade somewhere close to $90,000 to $100,000. That's where the momentum will most likely reduce, because this is wave 1, wave 2, and what we are looking ahead is for wave 3 running up. Great. So the news and narrative is positive. People are talking about these kind of big numbers. That's a possibility in the market. You see optimism returning into the market, but most of us who are in the altcoin would directly go into the market and say like, okay, I'm not actually watching any of these altcoins pumping. Now, if you have seen what we have posted recently on, now we do go through a lot of different assets, right? While we were going through a lot of different assets, the macro perspective, giving you guys the right thought process, we noted that a lot of these assets were becoming an opportunity. A lot of these assets were starting to break higher. So there was a lot of alerts coming in, and in last 1 week, we have seen a lot evolving in the market, especially while we were actually focusing on a lot of different assets. We kind of look for the macro perspective and then combine them, right? Say, while you look at this, Casper is slowly trying to push higher. And if you actually look at what's happening there, while the market is down, this asset is 22% up. That's a positive thing. Now, you have other assets right now trying to push higher in a similar way. So that means right now they are lagging or undervalued in the time horizon we are talking, and they are about to move higher, right? So this exists in the market. But the question is, are you really focusing on the fundamental assets or not? Because one of which would be basically XRP. There is no denying the fact that it is true. On the short term, yes, we are inside this pattern. XRP plays with a lot of triangles. We tried to break higher, but that became a fake out, and now we are coming back down. And that on the medium term shows you like, okay, we're coming back to this range of support, which would be close to 0.44. But then you step back again to see like, okay, what does a macro noiseless picture show me? And a 3-day chart kind of give you the narrative. Okay, you had the massive drop to the downside. You slowly went back up, but even in 3 days of moving to the upside, we still did not actually get that amount of momentum to the upside to erase even 50% of this drop. So that shows like bears are still active. If that's true, now what we are looking at is somewhere close to 0.42. Now, if the price slows down by 0.43, that's a great thing to watch. Now, we've been discussing through a lot of different narratives, and especially while we look for XRP, the asset, mainly, I would actually say like, okay, it really looks important for me to understand the perspective here, because I would personally say this is something for us to consider. Now, imagine, what if this really happens in the market? Now, what is this, right? There's a monthly chart of XRP where we are just focusing on the trend. So you are having a higher high that peaked there compared to the previous one. Then you're putting in lower highs. At one point, that changes from lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. It just changed to a higher high. Now, it didn't actually give you a direct higher low there. It was still in the same range, kind of a double bottom. But after that, you went up and put another higher high. So the trend was confirmed after getting another higher low. But if you waited for that confirmation on a monthly, you missed the massive opportunity there. Now, okay, fast forward all the way from that 2017 run up towards 2020. The change happened here. While the price was consolidating just below 0.3, the narrative was still bearish. People were psychologically low. The thought process was so bad that we are going down, 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 down. And what happened? The market slowly pushed higher, put in a higher high. This time, it actually made a higher low too, confirming the trend. Then it started moving up, made another higher high. So we know what happened afterwards. Right now, why this is really important? That's a primary question you should actually ask yourself. Because on a monthly, when you really remove the noise from the market, and this is a line chart, right? We are only looking at the close, meaning whatever happens in that month, the upside, the downside, the volatility, the entire stuff, we are removing that and just looking at the close price. Meaning, you may go to an auction, there will be a lot of people trying to say, okay, let me put $1, let me do $2. Another would say $5, and it finally closes the deal at say $10. And I'm like, whatever happened in between there, that's nice. What we are focusing on is the closing price. So that too, on a monthly chart, kind of gives us a bit more clear picture, I would say. And that is why here, when we just put in a higher high, that does matter. Now, yes, you can go on a monthly chart and then use a candlestick, because we really would like to see where we are right now and where we would like to be by the end of this month. So we have 30 days, and if we get something like this, that's gorgeous. Meaning we are going back in time and saying, if that comes true here in the month of May, that means, wow, that's bullish. Think it on the other side. Price went up, a huge bullish candle to the upside, breaking through that level of resistance and then closing above that, well above that, because the resistance was like 0.47 and it went up and closed at 0.54. So I would argue that was a strong breakout. Right now you see the price coming back down to test the 0.47 range, and it closed there on a monthly. So that really gives the idea that, okay, we are still respecting this level. So if we manage to stay here on a monthly close, it is going to be really interesting. Now, this is a monthly candle. Again, we'll have volatility to the upside, to the downside on a weekly, on a daily, all these short-term horizons are going to show us different things. But what we really would like to look at is where these candles are going to close. Now, yes, in a day, we'll understand how the market is reacting, and we would like to see the market coming back to the support. Think it in another way. At the current price, we may not actually see a lot of buyers entering. If the price drops to 0.43, more people will think like, okay, this is a good buy. If the price drops to 0.42, I would say there will be a lot of people thinking like, okay, that's a good buy compared to where it was before, because we went close to 0.58 and right now the price is 0.42. I may buy, right? I want to add more. That reduces your selling pressure because it's already at a huge support and increases the demand side of it. So that's the basic economics of supply and demand, and we get that. Now, yeah, you step back onto a 3-day chart and you look at the pattern, the price point, everything, and you say like, okay, the RSI showed me the bottom last 6-7 times and it bounced off from that trend. Right now, I'm getting close to that. So if we drop and we are still coming close to this range of support, most likely what happens in the market is the RSI is bottoming out and you are observing the fact that a lot of buyers are coming in. Remember when the RSI was still dropping, making a double top here, we had that argument saying, okay, I think the RSI still has a lot of room to come down, and we are here halfway through. So if the weekly RSI need to come down, one of the major support in this way will still be here. The previous resistance and support acting as another support here. So if it actually takes another week or two, we are still holding on to the 50 level in the RSI, which is kind of holding on to the bullish sentiment because we went up to 65. And historically speaking, on a weekly, whenever the price is going up, you're above 60. Right? You kind of get to see that happening in XRP. And that's one of the easy thing to understand. Now you go back up and you're like, okay, let me get more information in the market. You can actually add MACD or any other indicator which you are really interested in. And once you use the moving averages to get that point, you can either think like, okay, let me use a Bollinger Band, let me use a MACD. So all of this kind of give you base understanding where the price is with respect to the standard deviations. Now, if you are really only looking at the MACD, you're actually coming down here. And you're thinking like, okay, where are we right now? And it actually shows us that we are in the positive zone. We are entering there. Now, if you actually just look at what we just used here with this indicator, it actually gives you the idea, yeah, you're above. The price is above this one. And it kind of gives you a clear picture like, okay, now we are starting to trend up. As long as you stay above this, it is actually bullish because it actually consists of two ranges. So you're actually taking your standard deviation as a 20 and a 20 to the upside and to the downside. So you are literally looking for that level of certainty. Now, markets are never certain, but you want to reduce the uncertainty. Let me put it that way. And what we observe is like, okay, it is kind of acting as a support for the time being. And we want to see when we broke to the upside last time, as we were comparing before, like almost all the other indicators and the price action, the pattern agree that we are most likely here. And if that's true, now what we are observing is a move to the upside. Now, this is important because of the fact that we understand that we are here, right? Because when we go back, we do not actually observe a trend in price action showing you I'm making a higher high. In between here, making a confusion. The trend on the macro on a monthly was consistent. It was clearly making a lower high until the trend changed. You didn't actually get a confusion. That's the same for the 2018 to 2020 move, or you go back into the last cycle from 2014 to 2017. Once you got the higher high, we started getting consistent higher high until that changed. So it's not like, in between you get a higher high and then you go make another lower high on a monthly. That's different. If you go on a weekly, yeah, you can actually put an argument saying like, okay, we literally had a range of price movement making a confusion here because it actually feels like, okay, there is something. Right? You actually have a trend line here. You actually have a trend line here. You try to look at this on a short-term horizon to think like, okay, there is a lot in common. But now think about where we are in terms of the price action, the moving average. You're putting all this together, the indicators and everything. Now you may see a higher odds that the price is somewhere close here, which means, yes, we can correct back down to the support, come towards the 21-day moving average on a weekly. That's actually a bullish thing to watch because the first time we came to test the 21-day moving average, it got rejected. Then it didn't go much lower. It actually bounced back up and it broke that level. Now when we come back down, if we can make that as a support, that is bullish. So guys, the market is going to remain bullish for some time now. In between, we'll see short-term corrections where it would be most likely to buy the dip moment and opportunity zones in the market if you really understand where you are looking at for all of these assets. And if you are interested, you can look at the link in the description below. So guys, if you received value for your time, please do hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done that already. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye for now.